They called them two bodies, one soul. Everywhere Chisom went, Uju followed. Everywhere Uju laughed, Chisom laughed louder. The people of Umuchi had never seen a friendship like theirs. But that was before the stranger came, before the jealousy grew, before Uju did the unthinkable. Stay with me, because what happened in this quiet village will shake you to your bones. Before I continue, if you enjoy emotional stories like this, follow the channel because the ending of this one shocked even me. The village of Umuchi sat at the foot of a long green hill where the morning mist rolled in cool and slow, and the stream behind the market never stopped singing. It was a small village, not wealthy, not famous, but the people there knew how to live. And in Umuchi, no two people were closer than Chisom and Uju. Chisom was the daughter of Lotana, the village palm wine tapper, a quiet man who worked hard and asked for nothing. Her mother had died when she was 6. Lotana raised her alone and never remarried. He said Chisom was enough reason to live. Chisom fetched water before sunrise, swept the compound, cooked the evening meal, and still found time to sit under the ukwa tree and hum to herself. She was not the prettiest girl in Umuchi, but her warmth made people feel at home just standing near her. Uju was different. Uju was the daughter of Chiamaka, the sharpest woman on their street. Chiamaka had opinions about everything and a voice that could cut through a thunderstorm. Uju inherited all of it. She was bold, quick-tongued, and beautiful in a way that made men forget what they were about to say. Despite being so different, the two had been inseparable since they were 7. It started the day older boys chased Chisom from the stream and shattered her water pot with stones. Chisom sat in the dirt and cried. Uju, who saw everything, walked straight up to the tallest boy, looked him in the eye and told him exactly what she would do if he ever touched her friend again. The boy laughed. Uju picked up a stick. He stopped laughing. From that day, Chisom never walked alone again. They farmed together, fetched water together, shared food on hungry days without being asked. When Lotana fell ill one harmattan and could not walk for 3 weeks, Uju brought yam and palm oil to their door every evening without a word, without waiting for thanks. That was the friendship they had. But there was one thing Chisom noticed about Uju that she never said out loud. Uju did not like to lose. Not in a game, not in an argument, not in anything. When life was going her way, she was the sweetest person alive. But when something she wanted went to someone else, even someone she loved, a shadow would cross her face. Quick, dark, gone just as fast. Chisom had seen that shadow. She told herself it meant nothing. She was wrong. As they grew into young women, they began to dream differently. Chisom wanted simple things. A good man, a small home, her father resting in peace. Uju wanted out. She talked about the city like it was heaven. Endless light, endless possibility. She wanted a man with money, with ambition, with a car that could take her far from Umuchi. This village is too small for me, she would say, lying in the grass and staring at the sky. I was not made for this place, Chisom. And what about me? Chisom would laugh. You will leave me here alone? Uju would smile. That wide, beautiful smile that melted everything. You will come with me. You always come with me. And Chisom believed her. Because that was what Chisom did. She believed in Uju. Even when she should not have. That dry season came with a heat that cracked the ground and turned the hills pale yellow. It was in that heat that Ikenna arrived in Umuchi. Nobody knew exactly where he came from. Some said Onitsha, others said Lagos. He came with a car, good clothes, and a quietness unusual for a man of his means. He was not loud. He did not flash his money. He greeted elders with respect and asked more questions than he answered. He had come to settle a land dispute his late uncle left behind, a piece of farmland tied up in family quarrels for years. He planned to stay only a few weeks. But the day he saw Chisom at the stream, carrying her pot, humming softly, he stayed longer. He said nothing that day. He just watched her walk away, and something shifted inside him he could not name. He came back the next day, and the day after. It was Uju who noticed first. That man has been at the stream 3 mornings in a row, she said one evening, and he is not there for water. He watches you, Chisom, every single time. Chisom shook her head. You are imagining things. Tomorrow, Uju said with a slow smile, wear your blue wrapper and we will see. Chisom laughed and said nothing. But the next morning, she wore the blue wrapper. And Ikenna finally walked over and spoke. He said his name simply, without ceremony. He asked hers. She told him. He nodded, like he had already known it and was just waiting for it to be confirmed. They talked briefly. The weather, the land, the village. Nothing deep. But when Chisom walked home, she felt something new. Something warm and a little frightening. Uju was waiting at the gate. Well, she said. Chisom smiled and said nothing. Uju smiled back. But her eyes did not smile. In the days that followed, Ikenna made no secret of his interest in Chisom. He would find reasons to pass her compound. He would show up at the stream at the same time she did. He greeted Lotana with respect, brought kola nut, sat with the old man and talked about nothing in particular. But everyone in Umuchi knew what a man was doing when he started sitting with a woman's father. Chisom tried not to show how much it moved her. But Lotana could see it. The way she hummed more. The way she took longer to come back from the stream. He said nothing. He just watched and smiled to himself. Uju watched too. But she was not smiling. At first, she hid it well. She would tease Chisom about Ikenna, laugh about it, play the role of the excited best friend. But when Chisom was not looking, something else lived behind Uju's eyes. Something restless. Something counting. Ikenna was everything Uju had described in her dreams. Educated, traveled, calm in the way that only men with options are calm. He had a car. He spoke with quiet confidence. He was exactly the kind of man she had been waiting for Umuchi to produce. And he had chosen Chisom, not her. Uju began to ask small questions, casual, harmless on the surface. Did Ikenna say when he is leaving? Has he talked about his family? Does he have other women back in the city? Chisom answered each one honestly, never suspecting a thing. That was Chisom's nature. She did not look for poison in a friendly cup. One evening, Uju went to the stream alone. At the exact time she knew Ikenna would be passing, she wore her finest wrapper. She loosened her hair the way she knew made men stop walking. Ikenna greeted her politely. He asked about Chisom. Uju smiled, answered, and walked home with her jaw tight. She told herself it was fine, that Chisom would bore him eventually, that a man like Ikenna needed more than quiet warmth, that he would see, with time, what real beauty looked like. But time was not doing what Uju expected. Ikenna came to Lotana formally 3 weeks after he arrived. He sat across from the old man with kola nuts and a bottle of schnapps, and he said what he came to see. That he had found the woman he wanted to spend his life with, and he was asking permission to court her properly. Lotana looked at him for a long moment. Then he called Chisom inside. She stood in the doorway, confused, and then she saw the look on her father's face, soft and full and proud, and she understood before a word was spoken. That night, after Ikenna left, Chisom sat outside and stared at the sky for a long time. She was not crying. She was just very, very still, like a woman trying to hold something precious without breaking it. She went to Uju the next morning to tell her. Uju listened without moving. When Chisom finished, Uju pulled her into a long hug and said all the right things. I am so happy for you. You deserve this. He's a good man, Chisom. She said every word perfectly. But over Chisom's shoulder, her face said something else entirely. Ikenna's land business wrapped up faster than expected. He had planned to return to the city and come back later for the formal introduction. But he could not bring himself to leave without spending more time with Chisom. So he stayed. He took her to see the farms on the edge of the village. He sat with her under the ukwa tree her father had planted. He told her about his life in the city, not to impress her, but because she asked and she actually listened. Not the way people listen while waiting to speak. The way people listen when they genuinely want to know. He told her one evening, I have met many women who wanted what I had. You are the first one who seemed interested in who I was. Chisom looked at him and said, Is that not how it is supposed to be? He laughed. It was a real laugh, surprised and full. He proposed to her 2 weeks later, quietly, under the same ukwa tree. No drama, no performance. Just 2 people and the sound of the village settling into evening. He promised her the city, a home, a life far bigger than Umuchi. He promised to come back with his family for the proper ceremony. Chisom said yes. The news spread through Umuchi the way news always does in small villages, fast and loud and dressed in other people's opinions. Most people were happy for Chisom. Lotana walked around with the look of a man whose prayers had been answered. Even Chiamaka, Uju's mother, came to congratulate them with rice and a bottle of Fanta. Uju came too. She hugged Chisom, she laughed with the other women, she helped cook. She played the role without missing a single line. But that night, alone in her room, the mask came off. She lay on her mat and stared at the ceiling and let herself feel what she had been pushing down for weeks. It should have been her. The man, the promise, the city, all of it should have been hers. She was prettier. She was sharper. She had wanted it more. And yet, Chisom, quiet, simple Chisom who never even dreamed big enough, had walked to the stream one morning and collected everything Uju had been waiting for. It was not fair. That thought sat in her chest like a stone. And then a darker thought came. Slow and quiet, the way dangerous things always arrive. What if Chisom was not there? Uju closed her eyes. The thought did not leave. Uju did not act immediately. That was the frightening thing about her. She was not a woman who moved on impulse. She thought. She planned. She waited until the right moment arranged itself, and then she moved like she had been standing still all along. She spent days watching Chisom, watching how happy she was, watching how Lotana smiled more, watching how the village celebrated a woman who had never once competed for anything and won anyway. Every smile Chisom wore was a wound Uju refused to show. She started pulling back slowly, coming around less. When she did visit, she was warm enough, but something was missing. Chisom noticed, but said nothing. She thought Uju was adjusting. She thought her friend just needed time. She gave her time. That was her mistake. One morning, Uju came to Chisom's compound with a wide smile and a small pot of pepper soup. I have been a bad friend, she said, sitting across from Chisom. I have been so caught up in my own life. Forgive me. Chisom felt the relief of it immediately. She reached across and squeezed Uju's hand. There is nothing to forgive, she said. You are here now. Uju smiled. That same smile. Wide. Beautiful. Empty behind the eyes. She stayed that morning and they talked like old times about Ikenna, about the wedding plans, about the city Chisom would soon call home. Uju asked questions, laughed at the right moment, refilled Chisom's cup before she could ask. By the time she left, Chisom was glowing. She did not know she had just eaten the last meal her best friend would ever cook for her. 2 days later, Uju came again. Let us go to the stream, she said. Just the two of us, like before. Chisom agreed without thinking. Why would she think? It was Uju. It had always been Uju. They walked the familiar path through the tall grass, past the old cotton tree, down the slope where the ground turned soft and dark near the water. They laughed as they walked. Uju told a story about Chiamaka arguing with a market woman and made Chisom laugh so hard she had to stop walking. Everything felt normal. That was the point. When they reached the stream, they sat on the flat rocks the way they had sat 100 times before. The water moved quietly around them. The trees closed overhead. No one else was around. Chisom dipped her feet in the cool water and leaned back on her hands and closed her eyes. She was completely at peace. She did not hear Uju stand up. She did not hear her pick up the thick branch that had fallen from the cotton tree. Dry and heavy, the length of a man's arm. She did not hear her raise it. The first blow caught her at the back of the head. Chisom did not even cry out. Her body went forward into the shallow water, and she lay still, her face half-turned, her wrapper spreading out around her like a flower opening to lit. Uju stood over her and breathed. She waited. Chisom did not move. Uju looked around. The path was empty. The birds had gone quiet. The stream kept moving like nothing had happened, like the world had not just changed forever in this one small place. She found a spot behind the cotton tree where the ground was soft and the roots had loosened the earth. She dug with a flat stone and her bare hands, deeper than you would expect from someone walking alone, driven by something that had nothing to do with strength and everything to do with desperation. She buried Chisom there. She covered the ground and pressed it flat. She scattered leaves and broken branches over the site until it looked like nothing, like the earth had always looked exactly this way. Then she walked back to the stream, washed her hands, straightened her wrapper, and walked home. She did not run. Running was for people who were not sure what they had done. Uju was sure. By evening, Chisom had not returned home. Lotana waited by the door, then outside the gate, then in the middle of the road, the way old fathers do when they feel something is wrong but cannot name it yet. He went to Uju's compound. Uju was sitting outside, eating, completely calm. She left before me, Uju said, her face folding into worry the moment she saw Lotana's expression. I thought she came straight home. What do you mean she's not back? The panic she performed in the next few minutes was flawless. Her hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes filled. She stood up so fast her food scattered. She called out for her mother. She grabbed a wrapper and said they had to go back to the stream, that something must have happened, that Chisom had been standing near the edge of the rock and she should have been more careful. She led the search party herself. Lanterns, voices, the whole village moving through the dark, calling Chisom's name into the trees. Uju called the loudest. They found nothing. The days that followed broke Lotana open. He stopped eating properly. He sat by the door every morning like he was still waiting. The village elders sent word to the next town. Someone went to inform Ikenna. People came and went from the compound with food and prayers and the careful voices people use around grief. Uju was there every day. She cooked for Lotana. She sat with him. She cried with him, real tears, which surprised even her. She had not expected to feel anything. But something about watching the old man fall apart cracked something loose inside her, and the tears came without permission. She let them fall. They made her look exactly like what she needed to look like. A grieving friend. The best friend. The one who was there at the end. Ikenna came back within a week. He arrived with red eyes and a quietness even deeper than his usual calm. He had driven through the night. He sat with Lotana for hours without speaking. He walked the path to the stream alone and stood there for a long time, staring at the water. Uju watched him from a distance. She felt something move in her chest. Not guilt. Not yet. Something else. Something that looked dangerously like opportunity. She gave it 3 days. Then she went to him. Not aggressively. Not obviously. She came as a friend. Chisom's best friend. The one who had known her longest. The one who was carrying the same grief he was carrying. She brought food to wherever he was staying. She sat nearby and said little. She let the silence do what silence does between two people leaning on the same sorrow. She cooked. Ikenna began to lean on her without realizing it. He would look for her when she had not come around. He would linger longer than necessary when it was time to leave. He told himself it was because she was Chisom's friend, that being near her was the closest thing left to being near Chisom. He was lying to himself. And somewhere beneath the grief, he knew it. 2 months after Chisom disappeared, Ikenna came to Uju's compound one evening and sat down heavily, like a man carrying something too long. "I do not know how to live," he said. "Chisom is gone. There is nothing keeping me here. But I cannot make myself go." Uju looked at him quietly for a moment. Then she said, "Maybe you are not supposed to go yet." That was all she said. She did not touch him. She did not move closer. She just let those words sit between them in the evening air and did what she had always done best. Ikenna looked at her for a long time. Then he looked away. But he did not leave. Ikenna stayed. Uju had won. Or so she believed. She did not tell him immediately about the pregnancy. She waited until she was certain, until her body had confirmed what she already suspected. And then she sat Ikenna down one afternoon with the careful face of a woman delivering news she did not plan. Ikenna sat very still when she told him. He did not speak for a long time. When he finally did, he asked only one question. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Uju said. He nodded slowly.
The pregnancy should have lasted 9 months. It did not. The first sign that something was wrong came quietly, the way Uju herself had always moved. No drama, no loud warning. Just a slow, creeping wrongness that settled into her body and refused to leave. 1 month passed. 2, 3. Her stomach grew as expected, and she told herself everything was fine. 4 months. 5. 6. Still no sign of labor approaching. Still no discomfort that suggested the baby was preparing to come. Her body simply continued, heavy, full, and completely still. 7 months. 8. 9. Nothing. The women of Umuchi began to talk in low voices. A pregnancy that refused to end was not something they had seen before. They sent for the local midwife, who examined Uju and left without speaking. They sent for an older woman from the next village who had delivered babies for 40 years. She pressed her hands against Uju's stomach, closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she looked at Uju the way people look at someone they cannot help. She said, "This child is not ready to come." "Why?" Uju asked. The old woman did not answer. She packed her bag and left. 10 months. 11. Uju could no longer move freely. Her stomach was enormous, grotesque in a way that went beyond any normal pregnancy. She could not farm. She could not fetch water. She could barely leave her mat. Chiamaka ran out of explanations to give the neighbors. Dried herbs from the forest.
Ikenna came less and less. The weight of what was happening pressed on him in a way he could not articulate. Something felt wrong. Not just with the pregnancy, but with everything. With himself. With the choices that had brought him here. He would sit near Uju and feel a heaviness that had nothing to do with the situation in front of him. He started dreaming about Chisom. Not romantic dreams, not the dreams of a man who missed a woman. The dreams of a man being shown something. Chisom standing at the stream with her back to him. Chisom turning slowly, her face wet, not with water. Her mouth opening without sound. He would wake up in a cold sweat and sit in the dark and tell himself it meant nothing. But the dreams kept coming. It was in the 12th month that Uju's nights became unbearable. She would fall asleep and find herself in the same place every time. The stream, the flat rocks, the trees closing overhead, and Chisom sitting across from her exactly as she had sat that last morning, feet in the water, eyes closed, completely at peace. In the dream, Uju would try to look away. She could not. Chisom would open her eyes, and she would look at Uju the way only the dead can look at the living. Uju would wake up screaming. Chiamaka would rush in and hold her and ask what was wrong, and Uju would say nothing, just a bad dream. But she could not stop shaking, and she could not go back to sleep. And she would lie there in the dark with her monstrous stomach and feel something she had spent over a year refusing to feel. The 13th month arrived. Uju had not left her mat in weeks. Her body was no longer her own. The stomach that had grown beyond all reason pinned her down like a stone. And the dreams. Chisom at the stream. Chiamaka would sit beside her for hours. And Uju would just stare at the ceiling, lips pressed together, holding something inside that was becoming too heavy to hold. It was a Tuesday market morning when it happened. Uju had not been to the market in months. But that morning, she woke up before dawn, sat up on her mat, and something shifted inside her. She got up. Chiamaka tried to stop her. "You cannot go anywhere in this condition. Uju, lie down." But Uju walked past her without speaking. She walked slowly, one hand on her stomach, through the compound gate and down the path toward the market square. People saw her coming and stepped back. She reached the center of the market, the open space where the oldest okwa tree stood, where disputes were settled and announcements were made. And she stopped. The market went quiet around her. Lotana was there. She simply opened her mouth and told the truth. She said she had gone to the stream with Chisom. She said she had picked up a branch. She said she had buried her behind the cotton tree where the ground was soft. She said she had done it because of Ikenna. Because of jealousy. Because she had decided that what belonged to her friend should belong to her instead. She said it all. Every word. The market stayed silent for a long time after she finished. Then Lotana made a sound. He sat down on the ground right where he was standing. Slowly, like his legs simply stopped believing in themselves. Several people were already moving toward the cotton tree. They found Chisom exactly where Uju said. The earth had kept her. Time had done what time does, but she was there. And that was enough for Lotana to know. Enough for the village to know. Enough for the thing that needed to be real to finally be real. Lotana did not speak for 3 days after. He sat in his compound and stared at the ground, and the village left him alone with it because there are some griefs that do not need company. They need silence and time and the simple dignity of being allowed to fall apart without an audience. Chisom was given a proper burial, the kind she had been denied, with the songs and the prayers and the people who had loved her standing around her in the evening light, saying goodbye the right way. The ground finally had her, and the village finally had the truth. The moment she finished her confession in the market square, her labor began. Right there, they carried her back to the compound. Chiamaka was beside herself. The midwife was called. Women gathered. The labor lasted hours. When it was over, there was no baby. What came out of Uju's body was sand, stones, dry leaves, the same soil, the same debris that she had used to cover Chisom's grave behind the cotton tree. Chiamaka could not speak. Uju looked down at what lay before her and understood everything. She began to laugh. Not the laugh of someone who finds something funny. The laugh of someone whose mind has just stepped off a ledge it cannot come back from. By morning, Uju was gone. Not dead, but gone from herself. She wandered Umuchi from that day forward, wrapper loose, hair undone, talking to people nobody else could see. Ikenna left Umuchi quietly and did not return. What he carried with him, the guilt, the grief, the knowledge of what he had been used for, that was his own weight to carry. The road back to the city was long and he drove it in silence. Lotana lived 4 more years after Chisom was found. In those 4 years, he tended her grave every single morning without fail, pulling weeds, laying fresh flowers, sitting beside the mound for a while before standing up and going about his day. Moral lesson: Uju had everything. A best friend who would have walked through fire for her. A village that loved her. A face and a sharpness that could have taken her anywhere she wanted to go. But she looked at what Chisom had and decided it was hers. That is where it started. Not at the stream. Not with the branch. It started the moment she looked at a blessing that belonged to someone else and felt entitled to it. The moment she let comparison swallow gratitude. The moment she decided that wanting something hard enough made it rightfully hers. Envy does not arrive loudly. It comes quietly, in small thoughts that feel almost reasonable. Why her and not me? I deserve this more. It is not fair. And if you do not kill those thoughts early, they will grow into something that kills everything else. Uju did not just lose Ikenna. She lost her mind, her child, her freedom, her name. She lost everything. And she lost it by her own hand. Nothing built on another person's grave can grow. That is the story of Chisom and Uju. 2 bodies, once one soul. Remember it, not for the horror of what happened at the stream, but for the quiet moment before it. The moment Uju saw the shadow in herself and chose to feed it instead of fight it. That is the moment the story really began. And that is the moment each of us must watch for in our own lives. Because jealousy does not need a stream and a branch to destroy you. only needs your silence. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Limitless Tale with Peace. And leave a comment below. What do you think Uju deserved? Let me know.